Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday after Easter, where many of us are asking, what's next? Many of us join the daily podcast right at Christmas or shortly thereafter. Some of us began the pilgrimage with daily podcast during Lent, whether it was on Ash Wednesday at some point in the Lenten season. Some of us have had a great 2019. Others of us had a great Lent. Some of us, this is the first time you've had this much momentum in spiritual discipline. Others may find ourselves listening this morning, desperately needing help in your spiritual life, and the direction that's offered in a 2 to 3 minute daily podcast is cherished and welcome. But regardless of where you find yourself interiorly or within this Tuesday after Easter, many of us are asking the question, what's next? On the Tuesday after Easter, or at least after Easter itself, that was not a foreign question to the disciples themselves. What's next? They themselves were asking, what would life after Jesus' resurrection look like? They were asking questions of what would life look like after Jesus died and left them. And there was so much that was new and foreign to them in a post-resurrection relationship with Jesus that they were asking, what's next? That leader of the apostles himself, even the leader, Peter, we know in the Gospel of John, he just went back to what he was doing before he met Jesus. He went fishing. The beautiful story in John 21 reminds us that as Peter was asking, what's next? He just went back to what he was doing before his life changed with Jesus. That might be a temptation for us to go back and just to do what we were doing before we began this latest chapter in our spiritual life. And I would encourage you this morning to resist that temptation by a word of encouragement. The Gospel of John is not the only scripture passage that we could lean on today. There's one in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 28, where Jesus sends a message to his disciples to go and wait for him in Galilee. It's there that he's going to reach out to them. It's there that he's going to meet them. It's there that he's going to give them instructions. It's there that he's going to lead them. Jesus himself knew that his followers would be asking, what's next? And so he sent a message to them in Matthew 28 saying, hey, go and wait, and I'm going to lead you. I'm going to take care of the next step. If you're asking what's next is a person, not necessarily a plan. And that person, Jesus Christ, is as active and alive in your life today as he was on the very first time that you listened to a podcast or opened the Bible or made a decision to be more intentional about your spiritual life. What's happened in all of our lives the last several weeks is not your human initiative, but a God who is reaching out to you, and that's the person that we responded to. And sometimes it can be a little too much pressure on us to come up with an answer to what's next, when in reality it's a question that actually is coming from him. And he plants that question, what's next, in us. You see, he's the one who wants us to ask what's next because he knows the answer. What's next? It's a person, Jesus Christ. And oh, by the way, he rose from the dead to remind us that he is sovereign over all things. And if he can beat death, I'm pretty sure that he can guide us along in our spiritual lives. So be encouraged today. Jesus is what's next. A person is what's next. And that person is going to be as much involved in your life today as he was last week and the weeks prior to that. Be encouraged as we begin a new chapter in our podcast together. We will begin a new chapter in the podcast, even though Intentional has come to its conclusion, just like Choose to Live did. The response in our podcast has been so positive that we've made a decision over here at Christ Redeemer to keep it coming. So welcome to our latest installment of our daily podcast as we look into the life of the church after Easter and what was it like for them, the questions that they were asking, because that's the life that we have now and the questions that we're asking. The first question is what's next? And the answer to that question is a person, Jesus Christ. Rest with that assurance today. Rest with that good news today. Ask him to show you where he is in your life at this stage of life. And as you enjoy him today, and as we pick up our conversation tomorrow, enjoy the day, and God bless you.